Determine the left-sided limit and the right-sided limit and the two-sided limit as x approaches 5 of 2x minus 11 divided by x squared minus 3x minus 10. Each of these involves the limit as x approaches 5 of 2x minus 11 divided by x squared minus 3x minus 10. The first thing to do is try plugging a 5 in for each of the x's. That will give 2 times 5 minus 11 divided by 5 squared minus 3 times 5 minus 10. 2 times 5 is a 10 minus 11 divided by 5 squared, which is a 25. A minus 3 times 5 is a minus 15, and then minus 10. 10 minus 11 is a negative 1 over 25 minus 15 is a 10 minus 10 is a 0. That 0 in the denominator is not actually a 0 since x is just approaching 5. It never reaches 5. But a limit result of a non-zero number divided by 0 is a positive infinity or a negative infinity. The sign of the infinity often depends on the side the limit approaches from, so it will be necessary to work out each of the one-sided limits separately. We have the left-sided limit indicated by the negative superscript on 5. And we have the right-sided limit indicated by the positive superscript on the 5. Let's start with the left-sided limit. First thing to do is factor the denominator so we can see the factor that's making 0 in the denominator. The denominator is a trinomial quadratic. It will factor into x and x, two numbers that multiply to be negative 10 and add to be negative 3, negative 5, and positive 2 will take care of that. The factor that's making 0 in the denominator is the x minus 5 factor right here. We have x approaching to 5 from the left side. That means we are less positive than 5, like 4.99. And if that were plugged in for x in the x minus 5 factor, that will give 4.99 minus 5 a negative number. It'll be approaching 0 though, so we can call it a negative 0. And plug 5 in for each of the remaining x's. That'll give 2 times 5 minus 11 over a number less than 5, close to 5, subtracting 5 will be the negative 0, and plugging 5 into all other x's. In the numerator, we have 10 minus 11. In the denominator, we have negative 0 times a positive 7. 10 minus 11 is a negative 1. In the denominator, we have a negative times a positive, which is a negative, and a 0 times a 7, which is a 0. A negative over a negative is a positive. A non-zero over a 0 is an infinity. And there's the result of the left-sided limit. The right-sided limit will work out in a similar fashion. Also factoring the denominator. It's the same denominator, so it factors into the same factors. And the x minus 5 is the factor that's making the 0 in the denominator. We're approaching 5 from the right side here, slightly greater than 5, like 5.01. Subtracting 5 will be a positive number. It will be approaching 0. We can plug 5 in for all other x's, and this one is going to come out to a positive 0. 5 in for all other x's. 2 times 5 is 10, minus 11 over a positive 0 times a positive 7. 10 minus 11 is a negative 1. Positive times positive is positive. 0 times 7 is 0. A negative divided by a positive is a negative, and a non-zero over a 0 is an infinity. There's the result of the right-sided limit. The two-sided limit depends on the results of the two one-sided limits. They do not match each other here. So the two-sided limit up here will be does not exist. And there's the results of the three different limits.